1880. William James promised the world he would write the greatest psychology book ever. 12 years later, he was still writing. His wife was angry. His publisher was threatening to cancel. His health was collapsing. He wrote to a friend, "This book is killing me, but I cannot stop." Finally, in 1890, after 12 years of pain, depression, and almost giving up, he published a 1,200-page monster called The Principles of Psychology. The day it came out, the entire academic world exploded. Tonight, in Part 16, Chapter 4 begins the 12-year struggle that almost killed him, the chapter that made Freud jealous, and the one sentence that is still taught in every university on Earth: stay until the end, because what this book did to the world will blow your mind. With the foundations of his professional career firmly established, William James entered a period of even greater productivity and influence. By now, he was widely recognized as a leading thinker in both psychology and philosophy. His early studies of consciousness, habit, emotion, attention, and social behavior had laid the groundwork for his most influential works, and he began to focus on producing systematic writings that could guide both students and scholars. His goal was not only to expand knowledge, but also to apply insights to practical life. One of the central projects of this period was the preparation of his seminal work, The Principles of Psychology. In this book, William aimed to present psychology as a scientific discipline that integrates experimental research with philosophical reflection. He believed that psychology should study consciousness systematically, investigate mental processes rigorously, and provide guidance for education, personal development, and moral improvement. The book reflected years of observation, experimentation, and teaching, combining empirical detail with conceptual clarity. Consciousness remained the core focus. William examined the continuous flow of thoughts, feelings, and perceptions, emphasizing their dynamic and adaptive nature. He explored how attention selects certain stimuli, how memory reconstructs experience, and how emotion interacts with cognition. By presenting these ideas in The Principles of Psychology, he offered a comprehensive framework for understanding the human mind, bridging the gap between scientific research and philosophical inquiry. His concept of the stream of consciousness became widely recognized as a pioneering contribution to the field. Habit was also a major topic in the book. William emphasized how repeated behaviors shape character, influence thought, and guide moral decisions. He explored the mechanisms by which habits form, how they can be modified intentionally, and their role in personal growth and education. His work demonstrated that habit is central to both psychological functioning and ethical development, providing practical guidance for cultivating beneficial behavior and achieving self-discipline. Emotion was studied extensively as well. William examined how feelings influence thought, perception, and behavior. He explored the physiological and psychological dimensions of emotion, noting how emotions can motivate action, clarify understanding, or sometimes distort judgment. By integrating emotional experience with rational thought, he offered a holistic perspective on the mind, highlighting the interdependence of cognition and feeling. This approach reinforced the idea that understanding human experience requires attention to both intellect and emotion. Attention and memory continued to be key areas of research. William analyzed how attention selects relevant stimuli, how past experience influences perception, and how memory actively reconstructs events rather than passively storing them. These insights informed his understanding of learning, problem-solving, and adaptation, providing practical guidance for education and personal development. By combining experimental observation with philosophical reflection, he demonstrated that cognitive processes are both scientifically observable and deeply meaningful. Philosophy remained central to William's interpretation. He drew on classical thinkers and contemporary scholars to explore questions about knowledge, consciousness, and morality. Philosophy provided a conceptual framework to interpret empirical findings and connect them to broader human concerns. By integrating philosophical reflection with systematic study, he ensured that his work was intellectually rigorous while remaining relevant to practical life. This approach strengthened the foundation for his later writings on pragmatism, religion, and ethics. Social observation continued to influence his work. Williams studied the role of culture, education, and social expectations in shaping behavior, habit, and thought. He examined how individuals respond to authority, peer influence, and societal norms. These insights reinforced his holistic view of human behavior, highlighting the complex interaction between internal disposition and external environment. Understanding these social dimensions was essential for his contributions to education, ethics, and social psychology. Artistic sensitivity also enriched his writing during this period. Williams' attention to subtle gestures, expression, and tone allowed him to convey ideas with clarity and nuance. He could describe mental processes and emotional experiences with precision and empathy, combining scientific rigor with literary elegance. This skill made his writings not only informative but also engaging, appealing to both academic and general audiences. Practical application remained a guiding principle. William emphasized that psychological knowledge should improve education, guide personal development, and promote moral growth. His pragmatic philosophy evaluated ideas not only by their truth but also by their usefulness in everyday life. Knowledge, he argued, is most meaningful when it helps people navigate challenges, make better decisions, and achieve personal and social well-being. By the end of this initial stage of Chapter 4, William James had begun to establish the intellectual framework that would define his later career. His work on consciousness, habit, emotion, attention, and social context, combined with philosophical reflection, artistic sensitivity, and practical guidance, laid the foundation for the principles of psychology and his subsequent contributions. These years solidified his role as a pioneering thinker, capable of bridging scientific investigation, philosophical analysis, and practical application. Chapter 4 introduces William James's mature professional phase, emphasizing the preparation of his landmark works and the integration of empirical research, philosophy, and practical guidance. It highlights his continuing focus on consciousness, habit, emotion, attention, and social behavior, demonstrating how these studies laid the groundwork for his lasting contributions to psychology, philosophy, and education. As William James continued developing his major works, he focused on combining scientific precision with philosophical insight. By this time, he was deeply invested in establishing psychology as a rigorous and independent discipline. He believed that studying the mind was essential, not only for scientific understanding but also for practical guidance in education, moral development, and daily life. His work during this period reflected both careful, empirical observation and thoughtful, philosophical reflection. A central theme of this stage was consciousness. William James emphasized the continuous, flowing nature of thought, perception, and emotion. He observed how attention allows individuals to focus on specific aspects of their experience while filtering out distractions. Memory, he noted, does not simply store past events but reconstructs them based on habit, emotional significance, and contextual cues. This dynamic understanding of consciousness formed the core of his approach to psychology and became a foundation for future studies in cognitive science and phenomenology. Habit continued to receive detailed study. William James explored how repeated behaviors shape character, thought processes, and moral decision-making. He analyzed how habits are formed, maintained, and changed, emphasizing the role of conscious effort and reflection. Habits, he argued, are essential for personal development, education, and ethical growth. Understanding how to cultivate beneficial habits and eliminate harmful ones was a practical application of his psychological research, bridging the gap between theory and everyday life. Emotion was another key area of focus. William studied how feelings influence attention, memory, perception, and action. He noted that emotions could motivate behavior, clarify understanding, and sometimes distort judgment. By integrating the study of emotion with cognitive processes, he developed a holistic approach to human psychology. His work highlighted that emotions are inseparable from thought and that understanding human behavior requires attention to both rational and affective dimensions. Attention and memory were examined systematically. William investigated how selective attention allows people to focus on relevant stimuli, how attention is shaped by habit and prior experience, and how memory reconstructs experiences rather than passively recording them. These insights illuminated the adaptive nature of consciousness and informed his understanding of learning, problem-solving, and decision-making. By integrating empirical observation with philosophical analysis, he created a methodology that combined scientific rigor with conceptual depth. Philosophy played a crucial role in interpreting his findings. William drew on both classical philosophers and contemporary thinkers to explore questions about knowledge, morality, and consciousness. Philosophy provided a framework for understanding the broader implications of his empirical work and connecting psychological observations to human experience. By combining philosophy with experimental research, he ensured that his work was both rigorous and meaningful, demonstrating the value of integrating reflection with observation. Social observation continued to influence his research. William studied the impact of culture, education, and social norms on behavior, habit, and thought. He examined how individuals respond to authority, social expectations, and peer influence. These observations reinforced his belief that human behavior arises from a complex interaction of personal disposition, habit, and environmental conditions. Understanding these social dimensions was critical for his work in education, ethics, and applied psychology. Artistic sensitivity enhanced his research and writing. William's ability to perceive subtle gestures, expressions, and tonal shifts enabled him to convey mental and emotional processes with clarity and depth. This skill allowed him to describe complex ideas in a way that was precise, empathetic, and accessible. His literary ability made his scientific and philosophical writings engaging, helping him communicate ideas effectively to both scholars and the general public. Practical application remained central to his philosophy. William James believed that knowledge should guide action and improve human life. Insights into consciousness, habit, emotion, and social behavior could inform education, moral development, and personal growth. His pragmatic approach evaluated ideas by both their truth and their usefulness, emphasizing the importance of applying knowledge to everyday life. This principle underpinned much of his later work in psychology. philosophy, and ethics. By the end of this stage, William James had developed a comprehensive framework for studying the mind. His integration of consciousness, habit, emotion, attention, social observation, philosophical reflection, and practical application laid the groundwork for the principles of psychology and his subsequent writings. These years marked the maturation of his thought and solidified his position as a pioneering figure in psychology and philosophy. Chapter for highlights: William James's focus on the preparation of his major works and the integration of scientific research with philosophical insight. It emphasizes his studies of consciousness, habit, emotion, attention, and social behavior, demonstrating how these efforts shaped his intellectual contributions and established him as a leading thinker in both psychology and philosophy. The principles of psychology became the Bible of the field for the next 100 years. But William James was just getting started. In Part 17, you'll discover how he took laughing gas and claimed to see God, the secret love affair that almost destroyed his reputation, and the book that made atheists pray and believers love science. Part 17 tomorrow, 8 p.m. sharp. Subscribe plus bell on. The legend is just getting started.